Hello, and welcome to Night Cleric Radio. This is episode 151, What Maketh a Microgenre? Or perhaps...
No, you went with my title. Yay. Sorry.
That's fine. Or, alternately, a dungeon synth subgenre sampler, as we are looking at the subgenres of dungeon synth here in this episode. And with me, as always, is my good friend and co-host, Birk. How you doing?
I'm good. I've already interrupted you once. I have this little inner theory that I could put almost any title in the Google Doc and you might read it, like a Ron Burgundy type thing. If I can allow a very extremely hip reference, a very new and cool reference of Anchorman.
We got the alliteration, which I'm a sucker for, as any role player. Yeah. Maketh a Microgenre. That's why I did subgenre sampler, but
That's fair.
Yeah.
It also comes out of, if we're doing hip references, I was making fun of Kingsman the other day and he's like, the manners maketh the man. And I was like, before he beats up a bunch of teenagers with his high-tech government umbrella.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm good. It's hot as heckers here on the East Coast, which has led to a lot of funny imagery if this is a more political podcast.
Yes. Oh, damn. I wish you wouldn't make this all political.
I'm already on the AI haters list. So.
Oh, yeah. All that politics invading my hauntological music. What's up with that?
I know. It's very strange.
It's very...
But anyway, if this is a short episode, it's because I turned off my AC.
And you died.
And I die while recording.
Okay. Because a true podcast.
It's my podcast, audio quality. I pretend it matters, even though every podcast service just janks your audio up anyway with their post-processing. I don't know. I'm just rambling because I feel liberated after Boards of Canada month.
Yeah. We're free again.
Yeah,
Boards of Canada was too popular. It was too mainstream, really. It felt weird.
This is almost like an overcorrection back to the most obscure, weird little...
Yeah.
It's microgenre, man. It's nano-genre.
Yeah.
Femto-genre.
Yeah, so to explain the topic of the episode, dungeon synth is, of course, a genre we've covered many times, but there is a person on YouTube, account name is Galaxy, who's created two of these videos now that I love both of them, called 50 Dungeon Synth Styles with Examples. And recently, or like a year ago, he did part 2. And I part 1, I'd actually used in RPPR, in Role Playing Public Radio. I did a whole campaign in the Savage Worlds system in the Palladium riff setting, and I made a whole thing about music and muses. And so I did one adventure where they had to go to a different dimension and find dungeon synth apprentices, and each one typified a different microgenre, subgenre of a dungeon synth. And so I used that reference, and there was Dino Synth, which we've talked about before, and all these other ridiculous styles. But then I noticed the algorithm provided me 50 more dungeon synth styles. And so I thought they would be worth talking about, how dungeon synth has all of these micro genres in it. And we'll obviously go over some examples with albums briefly talking about it. But I first kind of want to explore, why does dungeon synth do this? Why is this sort of happening in dungeon synth? And obviously other genres have subgenres within them, utopian, scholastic, and vaporwave, for example. But there's not 50. There's not 100.
I bet.
Yeah. I don't know. But I don't know. Maybe there's just this guy is really good at cataloging them in a way that vaporwave fans aren't. So that's, I guess, the first question. Do other subgenres have this many fractal microgenres coming out?
Well, I mean, it's weird because dungeon synth is almost itself one of those fractal microgenres, because the first thing I think of is metal. Metal is incredibly granulated by genre, and dungeon synth comes out in the 90s out of Norwegian black metal.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it brings some of that tendency to classify along. I'm surprised you say that, though, given your love for electronic music, which is in dozens and dozens and dozens of genres across jungle and D&B and house and IDM and all these and all those subversions of that and trance and everything. So I don't know if dungeon synth is unique in that regard. I do think it's a nice, for this podcast, way to talk about all that versus doing metal or doing electronic music broadly.
Yeah.
How you form genres, there's kind of two ways really nowadays. So I think this is for me anyway, because I'm sort of in a lot of things, very non-essentialist. Like, I think most stuff is constructed by people, not necessarily even by people, as we'll see. But like, I don't think there's like an objective platonic realm of dungeon synth from which all these shadows of various subgenres are projected onto us or something like that. But, the two primary ways of genre construction are bottom-up community. And that's really what happened with dungeon synth is in the 90s, like, black metal guys were like dicking around on keyboards and synths and stuff. Loosely speaking, we have other episodes about it if you want more precise descriptions. And I think that original dungeon synth had almost had like a purity to it of like you only use very minimal approach, right? Only like a single keyboard or something was what they, maybe an early like Mortis or something was trying to do. But that quickly gave way to like depressive silence and stuff where they brought in more like field recordings, tape trading, more of an ambient neoclassical kind of take on things. But it didn't really have a name until like the 2010s when, I don't know, did we go into this much detail in previous Dungeon Synth episodes? It's been a while. Yeah. But there's a guy, Andrew Werdna, who started the Dungeon Synth blog, which was the first time it had ever been given that name. And that's sort of what caught on was that name and that description sort of quickly exploded. Not too dissimilar. I'm sure some people didn't like it either, but not too dissimilar from like Adam Harper calling it vaporwave, right? And some people being like, "Oh yeah, that's a cool name," and others being like, "What? No, we're just who are you?" But there's that sort of just it's constructed from the bottom up and then manufactured through these means. So like there's like community voting on tags and trees and stuff on Rate Your Music, Bandcamp tags, which we've talked about a lot, and then sort of building it out, and then you can say like, I don't know how many tags or how many releases or how many fans or whatever. Do you need it to count? Probably not many. I think, if you look at, if you go to like Wittgenstein or something, you only need two people to have a language. You can't have one. You can have language with two people.
Secret twin language.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you just have to have somebody, you have to have like an interpreter and interpretant. You have to have.
Oh, yeah.
Like communication.
Sure.
Yeah. But there's also like nowadays, especially, there's a top down or, it's kind of a dirty word, but like algorithmic defined genres. And this is like, have we ever talked about Every Noise at Once? Do you know what that is?
No.
So it is this website that was launched in like 2013 by a guy who was like a data scientist in the music field. And he was at some small company that got bought by Spotify in like 2013. All of a sudden he had access to all this because Spotify does this under the hood. They have all of these what are called clustering algorithms where you kind of like label stuff by common sets of features, but you don't define what the groups are ahead of time. You let them naturally form out of just, you define some feature space and let groupings of things naturally come together. So he started this website using that data that he had access to called Every Noise at Once. And it's just this big word map or list. There's like a couple ways of doing it that organizes music across like electronic to acoustic and then like complex to simple, which, you can get into arguments about what it means for something to be complex versus simple, of course. And doesn't have like a lot of human input into what this is. It kind of lets stuff fall where it is. And he categorized something like 6,300 genres before he got fired. He got laid off as part of like just a massive, tech layoff basically.
Jeez.
In like 2023. So he didn't have the data anymore, so he couldn't like keep the website going. But it did like define a bunch of micro genres. Then some became very popular. So I think that's actually in like 2018, 2019, where the first like hyperpop playlist started to come from. Was this sort of this algorithmic kind of shoving stuff together and then it kind of taking off organically after that. So I don't know, like you can get into, I'd have to go through that website because it's still up. It's frozen, as of 2023. But there's at least Dungeon Synth in there, and you can go through and you can like click on Dungeon Synth. They'll give you like a list of stuff that's like by some feature space, however they define it, is related. Okay. And it kind of surfaces. Unfortunately, it's all Spotify, which I think is not terribly popular right now.
Yes, Spotify has taken a more active, like, AI music is fine. You can, yeah. And
there's that. They don't care about that.
Yeah.
There's always been issues with what they pay their artists.
Oh, that's
their CEO investing heavily in like AI defense companies and stuff of just building like autonomous drones and whatnot. So yeah, there's a lot of not great aspects of them. So it's unfortunate, but that's one way to think about it. If you can kind of divorce yourself from the Spotify aspect of it and just think about like, if you could collect all this listener data of like who enjoys what and kind of what's sonically similar, that's another way that genres have been constructed and some have become very popular. So it's an interesting site. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah. I'll have to check it out.
So
One thing about this list that we found, or that I found, is how accurate it is in terms of like, I listened to a bit of this music, like, yeah, that is exactly this subgenre of music. And like, so I have this personal theory about like why these micro dungeon genres are so prolific, and why once you listen to like, oh yeah, that's definitely sausage synth, you know, for example, or whatever.
Yeah. It's a hot dog. It's hot dog cart.
It's hot dog. Yeah.
Which is funny because some of these I was like, are they even tagged like this? And hot dog cart is tagged as sausage.
That's one thing. Yeah, I looked into multiple of these albums. Every single one that I didn't check all 50, but like the ones that I did check all were self-reported tags. Like these are tags that like the person making the list did not ascribe to them. Yeah. And so my personal theory is that like there's this sound that synthesizers, like, you know, when synthesizers started becoming really popular in the 80s, all the way into like maybe the mid 90s, when CD audio took over, at least for video games, like for low budget anything, that's what it sounded like. It was, you know, whether it was like, you know, Legends of the Hidden Temple, you know, kids are game shows or video games or low budget like sci-fi movies or whatever it was, they had to use synth music. And so we've listened to decades worth of synthesized music that is supposed to emulate whatever. It's supposed to be, you know, whatever this show, this movie, this game is supposed to be about. You're going to listen to synthesized music trying to like replicate that feel, that genre, that aesthetic. And so we've all been inundated with that kind of music. So somebody's taking that sort of like an inflection point, like, okay, we're going to start here, and then I'm going to do my own twist on it. And so it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's just like, yeah, there's definitely like, this sounds like a Nintendo game about this theme, or a direct to VHS movie about it, or whatever. And I think that's why this kind of like 80s, 90s synthesized sound can be used, is an incredibly versatile tool to invoke these kind of feelings of being like, it's about this genre, it's about this aesthetic, but like, it's also like the low budget, like weird, the uncanny version of this genre. It's not like a Spielbergian vision of, you know, whatever it's supposed to be about. So that's my personal theory, is that like, it's working off this decades of mass media that use synthesizers for everything. And so we can all in our personal memories associate something with that whatever to synthesize music. So that's my working theory is it goes beyond the D&D roots of dungeon synth, you know, and the metal version. It's just like, oh yeah, you can make a low budget, you know, you can take a couple of Casio keyboards and an 808 and make something that sounds like witch. Yeah. Synth. Yeah. Oh yeah. This sounds like some witches brewing something in a cauldron. There's definitely a cauldron involved. And that's what that music sounds like. So yeah. Or garden synth. You know, this sounds like a VHS tape about gardening from 1987. And yeah, so that's my personal theory. And so I think a lot of artists have taken this and they like the sound of it, but they want to take their own unique twist on it and progress. So yeah. So it's a lot of fun to explore these things because people have like, you don't think there could be garden synth, but when you listen, oh yeah, that's definitely garden synth. Yeah, that works. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the biggest, I agree, of like an incredible ability to shape sounds. I think for some of these, they start to get maybe a little too close for me personally, like as a listener, like what makes something Elven synth versus Tolkien inspired. Okay. Yeah. Synth.
That's a big overlap in the Venn diagram for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And there's just little things like this, which is how do we decide that this is one versus the other? Not that it's like there's like a right or wrong classification, but like how did that artist decide like what to tag, or do they tag it as both? You know, because that's the other side of this, is that while we can do it, you know, why do we feel a need to like tag and categorize it? I think a lot of that we've talked about with other microgenres. I think there's a lot of sort of modern material conditions of like attention span competing, right? You know, you're competing for attention, not attention span necessarily, but to get paid attention to. So there's some desire to differentiate, to create like a difference and stand out, right?
Yeah.
Which is why you may call yourself, the very first one that came up was adventure synth, which I didn't think sound like, I'm not sure what makes that so much different from some other dungeon synth we've listened to.
That's fair.
Versus like one thing of, again, why do you separate it out? Because you can, but at least felt different thematically or fun because it's not really about dungeons. It was like bird synth. It's like an orthogonal.
Yeah, I did listen to that one, and yeah, I could talk about that.
Sure.
But yeah, I mostly focused on looking at subgenres that had nothing to do with fantasy. I try to like look at the outliers and like, oh yeah, no, this is, or like kind of coincidentally, I'm looking into that. So I mean, like in bird synth, if you want to start with that.
Sure. I mean, it's synth with bird calls on it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's also kind of like primitive synths. Yeah, the artist is Ornithologia. Yeah, it's a very odd word to say. Just the album's called One. It's from 2018. And I think it's also the synths sound kind of primitive. It's like a very simple, almost reductive style of music. But yeah, with bird calls, presumably each track title was named after a particular bird. So I assume it was that bird's call. And yeah, I mean, it works. It's that's bird synth. There's bird calls in it. It's synthesizer. Does what it says on the tin. It doesn't have to be that complex.
Yeah, but I think that's probably something that is also, I assume, something that maybe the phrase this carefully because I don't really know too much about their intent, but like that the artist is probably interested in or has some like passing interest in. You know, we did like mushroom synth too.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, versus the other one is like sausage synth, which was a hot dog cart was the artist. Mm-hmm. And this one was like called Tales from the Hot Dog Garden. It's on Personal Issue Records. It's out of Germany. There's food synth, dungeon synth, comfy synth, sausage synth, power bop. And this is an album that's a little all over the place. It's got a lot of like adventure stuff, a lot of just like lo-fi video game sounds. And that one's a little more, like a little bit more of a piss take type deal.
Yeah.
So there's also kind of like poking fun maybe at the idea of like excessive subgenre divisions.
Kind of like one reoccurring theme is like maybe when I talk about this fits that genre, that idea, it's like this is you could definitely hear this in like if this was an old Nintendo game about hot dogs or whatever, this would be this track. This would be the music you would hear in it. So like, yeah, I also like the track title for the sample track, which is once we've cored and filled every one of you damned hot dogs, we're going to Earth to fulfill the prophecy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of like that. Like the lovingly tended hot dog garden rewards us with the most beautiful fruits.
Oh my God.
And they're very good song titles. So it's funny because there's still like a lot of care put into it. It doesn't feel, and like jokes and think about it.
An elaborate shit post.
It's very elaborate, which is my favorite type of shit posting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But some of the others just didn't really like differentiate themselves to me, at least based off one sample. Happy to, get a counter argument from someone who's super into this, but
sure. Well,
yeah, just some of them like,
like one of the first ones I did listen to was the tropical synth one, which was Ziggurat's Jungle Majesty album. And this is 100% Legends of the Hidden Temple, like low budget Indiana Jones knockoff kind of soundtrack. Sure. It works for, I think we talked about Ziggurat's work before one of the previous episodes.
This sounds very familiar. Yeah.
But yeah, and it sounds like dungeon synth, but it also like has that jungle tropical feel to it. And I know there's like someone on our Discord linked to another tropical synth album recently. So I'm like, oh yeah, there's at least 2 albums in the sub microgenre. And it just works as like dungeony, but also tropical, also jungle. I quite enjoyed that.
I think it comes down to that a lot of them are just the name of the theme versus, which is fine, versus like something about the construction of it, which is fine because like Mallsoft is, vaporwave, but about something specific.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I get it.
I mean, there were some that were like more focused on like musical inspiration, like other genres, like industrial fantasy synth.
Yeah.
The album Spell Leech by Garth M. Master, which is very obviously taking from drone and industrial genres. It sounds like being in a dwarven war factory in full production. It's just like, oh yeah, no, this is industrial fantasy synth. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah, or like psychedelic dungeon synth or like harsh synth or noise synth. These are clearly genre mashups. And sometimes theme stuff is fine. I do like bird synth. I do like mouse synth. Big fan of mouse synth.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently. Yeah, it's just cute little mouse guys, little mouse guard guys.
Yeah.
Little
one's journey. Yeah. Searching for cheese. Tiny mouse.
Yeah, little guy on a journey.
Aww.
So that stuff kind of works for me.
Sure.
But like crypt synth, when there's, that's already been such a explored topic.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like don't call it crypt synth. It's just my mind goes to like, how do we decide to build this out? Right. And is there like a big crypt synth community? And like, it's very important that they look for stuff that's just tagged like that. And that's fine. I'm curious how these things get constructed and what their actual amount of representation is, we always talk about Bandcamp tags, and which are whatever, of course. They are what they are, but
what's the difference between crypt synth and horror synth,
Sure, or zombie synth.
Yeah, or zombie
zombies.
synth. Just looking at the album covers, they're all pretty similar. I did like a cult synth. I think the example they had in there was pretty like stylistically different enough because
that's true.
Yeah. That's from HCPU by Pejwurst. Yeah, it's I have no idea how to pronounce it. But it kind of, because it draws from like dark ambient and signal wave too. It felt like proto X-Files or like basic cable mystery show about Bigfoot or whatever, and get kind of operatic at the end. Like that one was pretty stylistically differentiated enough for me to merit that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe the albums I did listen to were just like, I just had a better batting average when it came to that. I mean, for one thing, like the album that was most like, yeah, this is exactly that subgenre. The thing I was talking about was like circus synth.
Sure.
Pooter the Clown. Yeah. Like this is a weird circus Nintendo game or analog horror. This is an analog horror series. Like this is the soundtrack of that. Cause it's very circusy. It got very maudlin, the sad clown, and got kind of creepy. Like it's everything you need from like the term circus synth. It's exactly what you can think of, and it just executes perfectly on that theme. And I don't know if you need more than one album in that entire subgenre. I don't know what the second album in that subgenre would look like. Maybe you could do a clown car one, like a racing game with like clowns. I don't know, but that
maybe
there's not a huge amount like you can do with it. But prove me wrong. Maybe there is something more. Maybe I just don't have the vision for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So on Crypt Synth, there are 7 albums across 5 or 6 unique artists.
Okay, yeah. What is the essence of Crypt Synth? Is it being in the crypt, being one of the dead? Is it venturing into a crypt to stake a vampire? I don't know. There's a lot to think. But yeah, like subgenres like mythic versus, like you mentioned, adventure or sorcery. Yeah, there's a lot of overlap for those more fantasy, dungeony kind of themes.
And it makes sense because there's so much, kind of to your earlier point, there is so much media to pull from different parts and to sort of hyper focus on. I think combined with maybe feeling like you have to hyper focus to get noticed, or you just want to. I don't know. That is also completely fine. I just I'm curious what the like smallest dungeon synth
it'd be definitely like something like Circus, something with like one album in it. Like that's I mean, to be fair, I didn't look to see if Pooter the Clown has more.
Maybe, but then
let's take a look.
I think the other thing is that like. It also gets me thinking about, these are subgenres, but then like subgenres that are like subgenres of multiple parent genres. Cause I don't know if we ever did it, but there's like crypt hop and stuff, which is like Memphis rap and dungeon synth.
Oh yeah.
Stuff like that. Or like stuff that brings in regional, like kabuki dungeon synth. There's like noise synth and harsh synth, but there's also like dungeon noise. It's also a tag.
That's true.
Again, I'm using tags just as reference points. If you not listened to us talk about genre before, they just are interesting things to reference. Again, I don't think they define some absolute truth, but they do define some fan taxonomy. Like somebody had to put it on there, a person, because Bandcamp doesn't do algorithmic tagging. I don't believe so. Versus like the earlier Spotify example I have where they do all this like under the hood classification of music to figure out what to recommend people and like build out those playlists and stuff.
Oh, there's actually a lot of bird synth.
Good. it's probably the most acceptable. I kept thinking of bird law.
Bird law. I mean, I want tree synth. I mean, there's tree law.
I know you do. Yeah. There's tree law and 90 trees.
Circus synth has 3 albums, all from different artists.
Okay.
So yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. So maybe like once one person releases one album, other artists are like, oh, I can do that. I can do that better. The little competition.
There's no matching tag for tree synth on Bandcamp.
Oh my God. Well, there's no example here in the list. I didn't look to see.
That doesn't exist. It could be a pioneer.
Yeah. It could be a pioneer. What does tree synth sound like? Probably it has some sound of, rustling branches. Yeah. So,
get some forest field recording.
Yeah. Sorry, just looking up the first 50 subgenres to see if there is one. No.
Oh, part 1.
Yeah, part 1. No, I don't. It's not in alphabetical order. There's no tree synth. So yeah, you're good. If you're an artist out there, jump in on that. Get tree synth. You heard it here
you're
first.
welcome. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting little. The thing is, a lot of these subgenres also sound nothing like the parent genre in terms of like the circus synth doesn't sound anything like a fantasy, like a D&D novel or D&D soundtrack type thing. So I like that variety and that creativity involved. So, but yeah, it's just a neat little trend.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking about. If you want to name drop, goes back to like in philosophical investigations, and Wittgenstein, he has like family resemblance, I think he calls it, which is like he did it for games, but it's where you have like things that share nothing singular in common in terms of essence, but have like a shared network of like overlapping similarities that kind of get pulled together into like some sort of likeness overlap, I think was the quote. And that these category boundaries sort of arise organically. They can't be pre-drawn. So the actual act of creation is what defines the boundary, like what you end up making. So. Oh,
interesting. Yeah.
There's a lot of, I was trying to, I don't know, think of all the crap I've read in the past and make some use of it.
We need to do our engagement bait. If you, the dear listener, have a particular favorite microgenre of dungeon synth, either from this list, maybe, and we've only looked at 100 subgenres now, technically. If there's one that we missed, please let us know. If there is tree synth and we just didn't know about it, let us know. If or what's your favorite? Do you prefer circus synth over bird synth?
You're wrong.
Or sausage synth or ritual synth or.
No, I'm going to go mouse, bird, and mushroom. I like all my nature synths.
Okay, yeah. I mean, mushroom synth I'm a big fan of, yeah.
Yeah. I gotta love those Morel albums and stuff.
Yeah, Chanterelle.
Yeah, the Chanterelle album, yeah. So good. But I don't know, then am I getting into like subgenres? Because there's probably a nature synth subgenre of dungeon synth. Mm-hmm. But then a mouse is like a subpart of nature. So there's a mouse synth, a sub. It's like, you want to go another term. It's almost like, it's like this like weird rhizome. If you want to do the losing guitari, we have like all these, like you have like no central reference point. Like everything is like this web of interconnected little bits, and there's no like central referent that they go back to. All these just little pieces.
Yeah, I do want to mention one more because I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention it, which is harsh synth, heat magnet.
I did.
Okay.
In passing, I real quick, it was an offline of like the genres that at least feel like they're connected to like other like fusion genres, like noise and harsh, and you brought up industrial and I brought up psychedelic. So like versus something thematic like bird synth, right? Synth, yeah. Like this is about birds, but bird is not, well, maybe bird is a genre. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. It's all very strange. Sorry, but was there something specific about harsh?
It is extremely harsh, very industrial, very. And I love the imagery is, the track title is Heat Magnet by Restraint Malfunction. And it's just this brutal industrial sound and everything. And I'm looking at the artist Bandcamp. It's all red and orange and yellow. It's all molten magma or steel. It's in a foundry. And it's newest album's called Maximum Disorder.
Nice.
Yeah, dark ambient noise, digital noise, drone noise, harsh noise, post-industrial noise. Like the dude knows what he's about, and it's noise. It is sounds like it is in a factory where at least one worker is melted to death every day, and that's the way he likes it. Yeah. So it's very unlike Dungeon Synth.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We enjoyed exploring the distant realms of Dungeon Synth. Of course, our next episode is going to be new music for July, where we have picked out some new albums to discuss and review, and we'll have some shout outs for that as well. Please join our Patreon. The bonus episode this month will be a solo episode where I discuss The Backrooms, the movie, the phenomena I will be watching the new version, which has just been released with an extra 15 minutes of footage. So I'll talk about that a little bit. And of course, we have a lovely Discord community where people share links and discuss episodes and related topics. And if you join our Patreon, you get on that Discord. It's a nice place to hang out online. And we are on Blue Sky. We have a website, nightclickradio.com. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you listen to for podcasts. If it's some obscure app I haven't heard of, please rate us and review us on there, and keep on synthesizing that music, founding new genres in the synth factory.
Yeah, make another 50.
Yeah. And let us know. Tell us about it. But anyway, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.